A lot of you don't know, but I am the dad joke champion. Very proud of that. I even have a mug. So just so you know, let's start the video. Cold weather deer hunting. We have coffee during cold weather. We have good opportunity during cold weather. It's a great time to hunt. Cold being relative. Maybe you're in Florida and it's going to be 60. Maybe you're in northern North Dakota and it's going to be minus 20. Bottom line, that creates opportunity. Why does it create opportunity? Now I'm going to focus on stem count and food and that movement to that. Deer feed 5 times in a 24-hour period. They need to stay alive. They need to consume energy and burn that energy, consume more. They need to consume some food to stay alive. And what you find is when there's big major fronts that go through that drop the temperature, deer miss feedings, they get cold, they're stressed because of that big system that comes through, and then they also are burning energy. So for all of those, missed food opportunities, stress, noise created by that movement, and then also burning energy, and they need to eat. They need to eat to stay alive. It's interesting about that. I'm going to add another point here, talk about midday. But bottom line is, they're feeding, they need to find food, and that's why I refer to stem count and food. What's a stem count? It's habitat change, briars, hardwood regeneration, brush, upland cover. Where you have more diversity of habitat, then you have more food. And what do they need with that? They need that for daytime browse. Now maybe that's all you have in your area, clear cuts in big public land. But deer and mature buck, he'll still go out on some point somewhere, he'll find that diversity of cover for the morning, where he wants to bed during the day, and then he'll go to that food source, which might be a big giant clear cut that he's hitting right at dark, almost like a cornfield. You can almost hunt clear cuts like cornfields. And those cornfields, if they're standing, they're great. If they're not, they might not be that time of year. Alfalfa, they hit all year. They're not hitting unless they're really starving and there's a lot of deer. They're usually not hitting those hay fields during December because they're stemmy, yellow, and dormant. There's usually something better for them. You hope there's something better for them than that because the food values are low. So it's not a great food source unless you get some of the arid areas like Montana, out to the west a little bit. The bottom line is that stem count is where they bed. They want to be able to browse. That food is really important to them at that time of year. There used to be browse everywhere in the early season. You controlled burns, you get a lot of green herbaceous growth. And you get down the southern areas, you get a lot of green still in October, November. That's not the case when you get into the north half of the country. Then it gets into December, it gets cold, into November. So you want areas with diversity, high stem count, so there's daytime browse. And then you want to couple that with a good afternoon food source movement to corn, to clear cuts, whatever it might be, standing food plots, green food plots, brassica like we plant, and a combination of corn, maybe late standing beans if you can get the beans to last that long. But all those are great food sources where deer can be here in a browse area and then go to food. But number 2, it has to be unpressured. So I'm looking for pockets of this movement. I want to have both ingredients. I don't want to just have browse and brush and cover, because if you don't have great food by it, and food's available somewhere in the neighborhood, they won't be in that browse, in that brush, because they don't want to travel a half mile every day to go to that food source. They want to be close, especially those does and fawns. They want to be in the first 100 yards, and those bucks will be 200, 300, 400 yards out, depending on the type of cover you have and the amount of fragmentation of small parcels versus medium parcels or ag land. So you want to find those unpressured pockets. Unpressured pockets are a premium this time of year. Think of all the lands that have been overpressured, overhunted. People just throw Hail Marys during the rut. They go out there, they're driving machines all over the place. They hunt the same stands over and over again. Well, that pushes deer away from those areas. The more they do something wrong, the further and the greater the ripple effect of pushing deer around those areas. So unpressured pockets are few and far between. I want them to be on your land. That's what we talk about a lot of the strategies that we do. And the ideal rut setup, where we're hunting unpressured food, unpressured movement, unpressured pockets. It's the same getting into this cold weather time. If you allow those to take place, you will have the best deer herd in the area. So people tell me, we have a lot of clients, we don't see any deer after gun season. We don't see any deer in December. We're out there in February and there's tracks, rubs, scrapes everywhere, and deer, beds. They're everywhere. It's because it's the first time they haven't been on their property for more than 2 weeks at a time. So that continued hunting pressure really destroys the deer hunt. And it's really cool to see that 2 months later. Then you can say, obviously we can see that before we even go to the client property when we see that in their notes that this is taking place. Unpressured pockets, look for that. I love the second rut during the late season. So you're finding unpressured pockets, you're finding good food, good stem count cover, and then you get that second rut. So look at your peak rut time. Around here, southwest Wisconsin, southeast Minnesota, you're looking at that time period of early November as primary peak rut. Fast forward about 30 days and you get into that end of November, December, and a great time for that second rut. You know, it might even be 15, 20% of the does are bred at that time. You can't miss it. It's a great time. No one else in the woods. And deer herd it up because they concentrate around these unpressured pockets of cover and food. It's a great opportunity for you. Most missed opportunity in the deer woods. There's a lot of times I'd rather, if I had a choice, I get to hunt just about whenever I want. I still work a lot, shoot videos, do all that. We're hunting tonight, hunting tomorrow morning. But I love that second rut so much that I would choose, if I had 1 week that I could dedicate to hunting, meaning a Friday to the following Sunday, so 9 days of hunting, I would look at it like I'd like to have 3 or 4 days during the peak rut, 4 or 5 days, and then 4 or 5 days of my choice during the second rut. I'd evenly split those if I could. 2 really nice long weekends. Around here, maybe the 6th, 8th, 10th, if there's a good cold front, and then I'd pick a good weekend there because I don't want to miss that time. It's full of opportunity, full of muzzleloading, your second tag. Maybe if you, like Wisconsin, we get 2 tags for bucks. You can get muzzleloader, gun tag. That time it's about 19 days long. But a lot of people aren't in the woods. It's a lot of fun during that time of year. Don't miss the second rut. What to wear? I love wearing, we use First Light. In fact, the big, huge, giant sale right now through the 28th of November, 40% off site-wide. Don't miss out on it. That's like pro staff pricing for most manufacturers in the hunting industry. It's a very, very big sale. I focus on the Solitude and the Sanctuary, depending on how cold it is. Sanctuary is very cold weather gear. And then Solitude, they both have wind stopper in them now. I like using the heavy quarter zip merino wool. I wear the Tundra face mask. It's really warm. I use a knit cap. I use a hand warmer tube. It's critical. And then we're using a lot of Volt Heat products where we have heated socks, heated vests. Awesome company. We love those too. We're fortunate to use both those. Bottom line, 40% off. Don't miss out. But you gotta dress for it. And the cool thing about good clothing that's warm, it lasts a lifetime. Expect to buy great clothes once. Maybe companies don't want to hear me say that, but you buy it once, it lasts for decades. Really, maybe you pass it down to your kids, grandkids at some point and buy something new. But bottom line is it lasts for a really long time. But don't skimp, because when it's cold, there's no substitute for being warm and enjoying the hunt instead of shivering the entire time. Number 5, afternoon magic. Never hunt in the morning, except during the second rut. Never hunt in the morning just to pressure it and push it when you have deer hitting a food source in the afternoon that it's a captive herd, meaning that you have their attention during daylight. That food source represents the bottom of the funnel of daylight movement, meaning deer coming from multiple bedding areas. They come down to one food source or 2 or 3, and then they leave after that, after dark, to go feed twice a mile away. Could be after dark, who knows? The bottom line is during the daylight, they're not moving much. And so you hunt that afternoon food source, put a premium on that. That's a fun time. I've shot a lot of deer, a lot of really nice bucks in that muzzleloader late season. And again, I'm looking at like, you know, your property should be heating up during cold weather, because whether you're hunting this hidden pocket on public land or you built it on private land, you're looking at these deer that are coming into the property, coming in where you hunt because they're not being pressured elsewhere, and you've identified good habitat choices, whether you've made it or you found it, private land or public. And of course that food source. So really put a premium on that afternoon, and don't force it in the morning. But at the same time, when you're hunting that afternoon food source, make sure you can get in and out without spooking deer. That is critical, because one hunt can ruin it for 2 or 3 weeks if the deer even come back after that. So make sure you can get in and out without spooking deer. And then look at the midday. When it's super cold, and I'll give you an example, West Virginia. Let's say in December, the average daytime high is low 40s. Well, if you get 12 degrees, that's stinking cold that time of year. You get up our way, let's say an average daytime high in December is 28, 31, whatever that temperature is. When we get daytime highs of 1, 2, 3, 6 degrees, 7, let alone below 0, it's frigid. What's the coldest time of the day then? It's at daybreak. So what do deer do? They want to conserve energy. So when do they move? They move middle of the day. A lot of times it's warmer. Let's say it's warming up to 10 degrees and it was minus 10, 15 in the morning. Well, they know that if they're moving during those cold times, they're not conserving energy. So they're conserving energy at daybreak, and then they're moving more late morning, middle of the day. And you'll see that especially on public land. You look at a nice flat where they're feeding on the greenbrier, or they're feeding on a hardwood regeneration with a clear cut. Maybe a bunch of blowdowns, a windstorm came through. They might be up in their feet more 10 to 2, 9 to 3. So don't forget about that time. You have to get in and out without spooking deer. So don't discount the midday during those extreme cold times. Make sure you focus on food. Look for those areas where you can actually hold deer, because if you have a great food source in the evening, but there's no good stem count cover nearby, yeah, it's great. They might come there at midnight after they sneak across open fields or open hardwoods to get there. But it's not a reliable spot to hunt in the late afternoon during daylight, because bucks have to cross so much open ground that they've known by at this point in the season is being very pressured. So they just won't be there during the daylight. So look for that combination. Great food source, great stem count, doesn't matter if it's public or private land, and you'll be on the deer even when the going gets tough. And of course, to follow the weather and know when it's best to hunt, make sure you're following HuntWise, HuntCast, 25% off savings. I love passing these savings off to you guys. So I hope, they're in the description, 25% off HuntWise, 40% off First Light. Make sure you follow those links in the description to find those. And I love being able to, again, pass off those savings to you. And again, if you don't want to buy it, it doesn't matter to me. We'll just keep producing the content for free, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope it helps you out, and I appreciate you guys watching to the end. I urge everyone out there to really check out my web classes. They've been wildly successful. We have one that details how you should design your land, another one that details how you should plant and maintain and manage a food plot program. How can you make those decisions that fit your land specifically and not someone else's? Unfortunately, there's so much information in the hunting industry that says you should do this, but it doesn't apply to you. These web classes directly apply to you. And then we have our third web class that came out last year, Rut web class, navigating the entire rut. And then we have our fourth one coming out, which is hunting hills and thermals. I urge you to check those out, try the web classes, and they're all about teaching, helping you understand how you can navigate, not only managing your property, food plots, and the rut, but also hunting strategically, hills, thermals, and wherever you pursue whitetails for your dream and your passion.